Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Force of Clarity. So today I actually want to share with you a challenging session that I had with a very young client of mine. It's a young adult that signed up with me in the beginning of the year. So he actually came today into the session with his head bowed down. He sat on the couch with his arms folded, looking downwards and not making eye contact at all. So I asked him how he's doing, and he said, I don't know. And for the next couple of questions that I asked him after that, he answered with the same response, and that is, I don't know. I don't know how I feel. He kept on just saying that I don't feel anything. I feel nothing. And I said to him, that's okay. It's okay if you don't feel anything. So how he actually ended up with me is he actually lost his job last year because of the fact that he just couldn't get up in the mornings. He's got zero energy, which gives him zero motivation. And that is his big challenge that we are sitting with. So in the session, his words to me was, I feel frustrated with myself because I'm not motivated. And he said that I feel hopeless because another week has gone past and I want to plan for the week. I want to do stuff for the week, but I end up not doing anything. And he said to me, what is the point of even trying anymore? So he said to me, it's like I've just given up. So how many of you know that this must be a very dark, but more importantly, this is a very lonely place to be in? So I didn't force him to talk at all, but instead I explained to him what is actually busy happening in his brain. So life starts in a relationship. The moment that you are born into a relationship, whether it's with your mom, whether it's with your dad, whether it's with a caregiver. But this baby that is born goes into a relationship. So you are born into relationships. In relationships, that is where we get hurt. We also get healing in our relationships. So when our relationships are there, we've got basic needs that needs to be fulfilled. So our basic needs are obviously food. We need to eat. You need to have a roof over your head, and you need clothes to wear. That is your basic needs. But with those basic needs, you also have emotional basic needs, which is we all need to feel loved. We all need to feel that we belong, and we all need to feel validated. In other words, we need to feel appreciated. So when our basic needs are met, then our self-perception goes up. In other words, we are more inclined to love. We've got that sense of belonging. So we've got that security. You've got your self-worth. So when you've got a good self-perception, when you've got your self-worth, that is where you move into a positive psychosocial. That means that you want to achieve things. You are organizing things. You are thorough. You're diligent. You've got self-confidence. You've got the drive. And then once you've got the achievement, you get that satisfaction, right? So yes, I've done it. I've reached this goal. What is my next step? And then you've also got an expectation. So expectation is where you are able to help others to be successful. You undertake, so in other words, your energy goes out to other people. Why? Because you have capacity. So, and when you are growing, when those growth needs are met, then you've got a positive emotional functioning. In other words, this is where you are free from anxiety. You don't overthink things all the time. You don't have this paranoia going on. Life is making sense to you, and you are free, you are happy, you are creative. So that is the cycle that keeps on repeating, because when you are happy, your relationships are good. So the same applies for the opposite. What does negative psychosocial look like? Well, that is when you start to it impacts you negatively. So you've got these negative thoughts going. So what I just want to say here to you is, so why is negativity always stronger to positivity? The reason for it is your brain's main function is to keep you alive. That is all it needs to do. It needs to keep you alive. How does it do it? By predicting what is going to happen to you. So your brain feels safe when there's a pattern, because that's what it knows. So Because it needs to keep you alive, it is inclined, it is focused on the negative things, it's focused on the threats. Now, your brain cannot differentiate between here is a lion standing in front of me, ready to eat me alive, or whether this is a perceived threat that, you know what, I won't be able to pay the rent at the end of the month, right? That is a perceived threat. So your brain cannot differentiate between the two. So that is why negativity is always stronger than positivity, because it needs to see where it needs to keep you safe. So the moment that this negativity takes over, you feel like you don't have control. So you are sitting with frustrations, you are sitting with the stress, and what happens is eventually you have this helplessness feeling that comes over you. So what happens is when your basic needs are not met. What we need in an emotional, those basic needs that we need emotionally is we need somebody to listen to us. We need somebody to really understand where we are coming from, and we need validation. What happens in reality is the moment that you start to share your problems, the moment that you start to share your struggles, one of three things happen. Most likely somebody will criticize you. They are going to criticize you. You should try harder, or you shouldn't be so lazy, or whatever the case may be. Or you get advice. So I didn't ask for advice. I actually just wanted to voice my concerns. But you always get advice, right? Or you get those friend that says, you know, they cannot wait for you to finish your sentence because you know what? You will not believe what happened to me this week. So what happens is your needs get shifted aside, and now it's your friend's turn. You need to sit back and you need to listen. That is what happens in reality. So the moment that our basic needs are not met, automatically your self-perception goes down. This is where you start to feel worse. This is where you don't feel loved. This is where you most probably start to isolate yourself. You feel alone. And your lack of self-worth, because you're alone, your self-worth drops. So you've got a lack of self-worth. And when you have a lack of self-worth, well, your relationships suffer because you isolate yourself. That is where you say, you know, you tell yourself, you know what? I'll go back to that friend of mine when I feel better. Why? Because you don't feel like explaining yourself to other people. That is also stealing your energy, because the little energy that you have. So what you do is you start to isolate yourself more and more and more. And that is when your relationships go down. And when your relationships goes down, your self-perception goes down, then you stop growing. You don't grow anymore because you stagnate. So, and when you don't grow, you don't feel like you're achieving anything. And when you don't achieve anything, well, you cannot be satisfied. And when you're not satisfied, then what is the point, right? That is the words that we use. What is the point? What future? So I start to feel worse. Now, what happens when you are negatively affected, when your brain is negative? You start to stress a lot more. So you become a lot more reactive to things. Your fuse is very short. You get angry quite often. You can cry often, or you can cry very quickly, very emotional. And when you are in this state for a very long period of time, what happens is you try and you make friends with people that are worse off than you, because then you can feel a little bit better. And this is normally where you get involved in the wrong crowd. And when your stress levels are so high and you stay there for a long time, you don't want to be here anymore. And this is also where you start to become dependent, because you need to cope somehow. So this is when people start to smoke, they start to drink, they go to drugs, whatever the case may be. But you need to still cope in some other way. So what needs to happen is you need to go back to basics. What are your basic needs that is not being fulfilled? Do you feel loved wherever you are? Do you feel a sense of belonging? And do you feel appreciated? Or do you feel validated? So something needs to change here. And if you do not get it at home, if you do not get it in your environment, I want to encourage you to look for a place where you can find belonging. If you are a single person, maybe look for something that gives you that sense of belonging. You have to sit with those feelings that you have. And you can ask yourself the question is, what does this feeling need? And just sit with that feeling. Just be with it. So you can sit and you can ask yourself, what do I need in this moment? So I always encourage my clients to say, you know what? Invite all of the emotions to the table. You don't need to interact with anxiety. You don't want depression there, right? But you can acknowledge it and say, you know what, I am feeling a little bit down today. Or, you know what, today I am angry. And that is okay, because there is space for all of your emotions. It helped my client today to really understand, because a lot of the times we think that we are damaged. A lot of the times we think that we are a default, right? That we are broken. That is not the case. There is stuff that happened to you that got you to a place where your stress levels become too much for you to handle. And then that is where all of these behaviors come from, because you still need to cope. So him blocking his feelings is one of the coping mechanisms that he uses for himself to block the emotion, and actually he's not really blocking it either. He is really not feeling anything, because he's been in high stress functioning for a long time now. So your body, your nervous system actually really shuts down, because you become numb, because you are in survival mode. And when you are in survival mode, that is where you feel like you want to jump into your car, you want to drive until all of the petrol is out of your car, and you hope that nobody finds you. Then you've been in high functioning stress levels for a very long time. And that just means that you do not have the capacity. But unfortunately, the reality is that if you do not have the capacity, you will feel it in your circumstances. Like my client, he lost his job, but there is hope. And this is what I want to give you today. There is hope. You just need to get your capacity back. You just need to look after your stress level. So if you are a little bit stressed, I want to encourage you, don't take it too far. It's very difficult to turn this around. There is a certain level where you can get to, where you can look after your own stress. But after that, you do need to go for professional help. And that is what we are working on. I hope this helps.